It's the Jim and Terry Show, coming to you from the Hobbit Hole Studio in Bobcaygeon. I'm one of your hosts, Terry.
And I'm the other guy, Jim.
The other guy. Isn't that the name of a movie? The other guy? Or was it Ryan Reynolds, the blue guy or something?
I don't know. He's
you
good.
Don't know.
Ryan
Reynolds.
Ryan Reynolds.
Famous Canadian. We were looking at some shorts that we saw. I visited Rick Mercer's What Americans Think.
He's funny.
And maybe we'll start there. What do Americans think of Canada, and what's the most unusual thing that you've ever heard? Like, you went to Florida quite a bit.
Quite a bit. I've heard a lot, and I love my neighbors to the south. Truth of the matter is that the majority appears to me to be ignorant of anything else other than their own country. And Canada, just being up north, I've been. They thought at one time I was down there that Canada was holding up their elections. I think it was the same time the Florida.
The Al Gore recount in 2020.
And I didn't have the heart to tell him that we're kind of our own country. So I just said, we kind of do our own thing up there. And he goes, yeah. Another woman, a young girl, said to my friend Gil, we were in a NASCAR shop because he liked NASCAR. And she said, can I ask you a question to my friend Gil? She goes, what do you do with your horses in the winter? Gil said, exactly what you do with yours.
Put them inside.
Yeah, I don't know. What kind of question. And I know I was in Atlantic City once, and this was after the Blue Jays had won 2 World Series. And we went to go see the hall there where they have the beauty pageants. I forget what it's called, but it's like a hockey rink size thing. And it's okay, it's no dome stadium, right? So anyways, the guy goes, he says, I'll take you in. He was a security guard, which I thought was wonderful of him. And he's showing us, he goes, you realize you could hit a baseball from here, and right over to there. I said, have you ever seen the dome stadium in Toronto? He goes, no, what kind of stadium? I said, it's a baseball stadium. He goes, you have baseball in Canada? I said, the Blue Jays just won back-to-back World Series. Oblivious. Wow. So I guess when their teams didn't move on,
they stopped
watching.
Right.
And so I've seen all kinds of that happen when I've been in the States. And God bless them. I love them. I go to the States, so I want to still go there. But they're really not taught anything. Like, I mean, your neighbor to the north, and you don't know they won the World Series twice.
We have to remember that. Before we be too hard on them.
I'm being nice.
There are still people who graduate. There are still people who go on to do doctorates. There are still people who become nurses, astronauts, lawyers, engineers, and all the rest of that stuff. They're still there. So did Rick Mercer actually pre-select these people? It's like interviewing those in Trump's lines.
Yeah.
Do they pick these people out? Are they
random?
I
think sometimes you'll do. I mean, Rick Mercer's a comedian. He probably wants to get the biggest bang for the buck. But the other thing is probably what happens. He may have interviewed 5 people and picked the one he wanted.
Right. We don't know.
He might have had 3 of them that knew right on absolutely everything. Who's the prime minister and everything.
Right. So it misrepresents the real.
It does, but it's
still funny.
It is still funny. And the reason Rick Mercer does a show like that, because it's common knowledge. They don't know about us. You can go into Buffalo and they wonder what you're doing with the igloos. They think it's just winter across that border. Bang, that's it.
Across the bridge.
Now, I'm sure that's changed a lot now, but back in the day, holy moly, yeah.
One of Rick Mercer's sketches that I saw, not sketches, one of his questions was about Canada has decided to build a navy, which is really odd for our landlocked country. And so we're wondering if you would mind, where do you think Canada should put their navy? Do you think they could keep it at an American port? Would you lease us a military base for our navy? Do you think it's important for a landlocked country to have a navy?
Got 3 oceans.
They don't know that, Jim.
I know.
Yeah, so it was pretty funny. So we pick on our American.
Sometimes people get caught off guard and they don't have time to think either. I could see me falling for something like, I guess you could have one of our ports, but as long as you're smaller than us, I don't know. But if you got time to think about it, I'm sure they walked away and said, Canada, wait a minute, it's got the Arctic, it's got the the Atlantic, the Pacific.
Well, at least they were gracious enough to one said, well, why don't we just protect you for you?
Well, that's basically what sort is going on.
That's what NORAD
thank
is,
you,
and-
America. Thank you for that, U.S.
So
I mean, we have great fighters, great army. We do, but we're small, and we know that.
So what I've been doing is looking at videos of other people looking at Canadians, where there's one fellow that I like to look at because he's kind of a nice guy. He's a sweet American fellow who does his impressions of, I didn't know that about Canada. And one of those shows was about what American actors, comedians are Canadian. And so when he came to Ryan Gosling, he's like America's sweetheart. You know what I mean? He's Canadian. Can't be Canadian. And they listed
Neil Young
yeah. So they went through the list of some of those things, and it was fun to see his reaction, because he's reacting to, I didn't know, but they're in all our movies. What do you mean? Martin Short's in all their movies. Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. Not Honey. Was he in that one? No, that's the other. How many Canadian actors?
William Shatner.
William Shatner.
Star Trek.
Yeah, so there's so many that it goes unrecognized because it's like Canadians are chameleons. We can fit in anywhere.
We are.
Seth Rogen. Seth Rogen is in so many counterculture films. I'll use that word to cover his toking predilections and just say it's counterculture. But they didn't know that he was Canadian.
I'm going to break the American's heart right now. Keanu Reeves is American. It's Canadian.
Yes, that's one of the big surprises.
Yeah.
So someone.
I'm a real fan of his.
Yes. Yeah.
Though the last movie was way over the top. I think I've had enough of. What is it?
John Wick.
John Wick. I think I've had enough of John.
That
Wick.
was way beyond. And the last Matrix, I really didn't care for either.
Yeah. Well, they just make it more and more. But don't forget, there's probably a whole crowd of people that's what they want. I want a little bit of reason.
So the theme seems to be what Americans think about Canada and whether they are aware of things Canadian. And we've talked about Rick Mercer, who used to do the classic interview of This Is What Americans Say or Believe, or I forget what his segment was called. But to find out some of the questions, like Canada's a landlocked country. We just decided to stop the the seal hunt in Saskatchewan. Yeah, I think you should, Canada, you should be more environmentally sensitive and stop the seal hunt in Saskatchewan. Everybody's just, okay. Yeah, so, and Rick Mercer has that shtick where he can deliver the lines.
Didn't Rick Mercer also do that with a puck shortage? What are we going to do?
They asked about the flag and whether we should have, Canada's developing its own flag. We're getting rid of the Union Jack. We're going to have choices like, do you think we should have a puck, or do you think we should have a bowl of poutine?
Oh.
Do you think what should we have on our flag? And everybody voted for the puck because that's Canada.
That is Canada, yeah.
Okay. So it shows that they don't even know we have a flag right now.
Well, yeah, but that's, yeah. But again, if they stopped and thought for a minute, wait a minute, I saw the Olympics and I saw a Canadian flag.
No, apparently
maybe not.
You have these glazed eyes when you don't see anything but the Star-Spangled Banner.
I remember I was in Florida one time and there was this real repulsive young, not his wife, but this young guy was so happy that he was American, and his wife and him had a business and it was going good, and so we're in Florida.
The American dream.
Yeah, and everything I said, he goes, that's because you're jealous. I went, what? What am I jealous about? Like, what do you mean? And he really was repulsive.
Wow.
Debbie went to give him a loonie. She would just do that. She'd go give a kid a loonie or whatever, just as a memorial. Goes, what am I going to do with that? Threw it on the table. Just take it home and throw it in the drawer. But, it was a nice gesture that he was not a nice guy. Wow. The wife was fine, but he was not a nice guy. But now I'm sure by now he's probably calmed down. No, I'm not. He's probably got guns in his pickup.
Here to say what the epitome of stereotypical Canadian character traits are. How would you say Canada or Canadians are viewed by others, not just Americans, but around the world?
I think apologetic, We seem to do say sorry a
I'm-
lot.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, after you, I'm sorry. Did I bump into you?
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
so-
yeah, yeah. Oh, you hit my car. I'm sorry.
Well, that's more than a sorry for that one. Yeah,
But we do. We tend to say it a lot. I think we. That may come from even an inferiority complex, to tell you the truth. It may come from that being our big brother down in the States, and we're just Canadians. You know what I mean? And we do take great pride when our teams win, right? Great pride, especially in hockey. That may be waning now, but I'm sure soccer eventually is going to take over. It's just such an accessible sport. But we take great pride in that, and I think part of it is, I remember a time when if they ever even mentioned Canada or Toronto or something on TV, I'd perk up. Oh, they mentioned Canada. So that's partly from an inferiority complex, I think.
Did you know that Canada has one of the most highly educated populations? So, a number of people with post-secondary education in Canada is
didn't know
among
that.
the top countries in the world.
I didn't know that, no.
Did you know that Canada was number 2 on a list of countries of desirable places?
Yeah, I know we're up there because we have a good mixture of both, the capitalistic view and the socialistic view. We have a good mixture of both.
Well said. Well said. It's
Yeah.
a mixture that keeps
Yeah, yeah.
Canada at the attention of the world, looking at it as a
A
place. of-
mosaic,
A mosaic. Yeah.
a mosaic of people.
Yeah,
And
I
we
think
do seem to be very, very tolerable about other people's beliefs and ways. So I guess we're becoming Sweden or something,
very inviting.
Yeah.
And I think we're taking, this was a contentious issue, but I think we are taking a lot more refugees than a lot of other countries in the world, and that's good for Canada, I think.
Yeah, well, our refugees is one thing, yes, but when we have immigration, we've been known to be picking the cream of the crop.
Who would not want to pick if you had the choice?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know. What Americans think of Canada is sort of where we're going and looking back on all things. I'm going to suggest red-green for the next episode. Stay tuned. Bye-bye for now.
Bye-bye.